Hmm. Good morning, dear Dharma friends. Oh, can't hear me yet. There we go. Good morning, dear Dharma friends. It gladdens my heart to see you. It's a funny term, isn't it? Gladdens my heart. So, I have to orient myself to the date. What's the date? David, I'm sure you know. Well,
It's the 8th, Robert.
It's the 8th. I was just about to say, well, it's today.
I don't understand.
Oh, I don't
Hey
know.
Siri, I was just about to say, well, it's
Shut
today.
up.
But
Siri, listening from the side here.
I'm honored you'd ask me. I'm not sure I understand.
Oh my God, it's happening everywhere. I don't know what to do. I've been invaded by the Siri beast. All right. I think I'm going to try a poem. Oh dear. One must remember that meditation and spirituality are very serious business. All right. I have a wonderful poem this morning. I'm Robert Beatty. This is a broadcast of the Portland Insight Meditation Community. It is wonderful to be here this morning. PortlandInsight.org, RobertBeatty.com, worthy destinations for a computer search. This is called Distant Regard by Tony Hoagland. I have no idea how this got into my poetry collection. If I knew I would be dead by this time next year. It's kind of a catchy opening line, isn't it? If I knew I would be dead by this time next year, I believe I would spend the months from now till then writing thank you notes to strangers and acquaintances, telling them, you really were a great travel agent, or I never got the taste of your kisses out of my mouth, or watching you walk across the room was part of my destination. It would be the equivalent, I think, of leaving a chocolate wrapped in shiny foil on a pillow of a guest in a hotel. Hotel of Earth, where we resided for some years together, I start to say, before I realize it is a terrible cliche and stop. And then go on, forgiving myself in a mere split second, because now that I'm dying, I just go forward like water flowing around obstacles and second thoughts. Not getting snagged, just continuing with my long list of thank yous, which seems to naturally expand to include sunlight and wind, and the aspen trees which gleam and shimmer in the yard, as if grateful for being soaked last night by the irrigation system invented by an individual to whom I am quietly grateful. Outside it is autumn, the philosophical season, when cold air sharpens the intellect. The hills are red and copper in their shaggy majesty. The clouds blow overhead like governments and years. Perhaps it would be good to mute. There we go. The clouds blow overhead like governments and years. It took me a long time to understand the phrase distant regard. But I am grateful for it now. And I am grateful for my heart that turned out to be good after all. And grateful for my mind, to which, in retrospect, I can see I have never been sufficiently kind. As Robert Bly would say, well, now we know the lay of the land, let's hear the next level. If I knew I would be dead by this time next year, I believe I would spend the months from now till then writing thank you notes to strangers and acquaintances, telling them, you really were a great travel agent, or I never got the taste of your kisses out of my mouth, or watching you walk across the room was part of my destination. It would be the equivalent, I think, of leaving a chocolate wrapped in shiny foil on the pillow of a guest in a hotel. Hotel of Earth, where we resided for some years together, I start to say, before I realize it is a terrible cliché, and then stop, and then go on, forgiving myself in a mere split second, because now that I'm dying, I just go forward like water flowing around obstacles and second thoughts, not getting snagged, just continuing with my long list of thank yous, which seems to naturally expand to include sunlight and wind and the aspen trees which gleam and shimmer in the yard, as if grateful for being soaked last night by the irrigation system invented by an individual to whom I am quietly grateful. Outside it is autumn, the philosophical season, when the cold air sharpens the intellect. The hills are red and copper in their shaggy majesty. The clouds blow overhead like governments and years. It took me a long time to understand the phrase distant regard, but I am grateful for it now. And I'm grateful for my heart that turned out to be good after all, and grateful for my mind, to which, in retrospect, I can see I have never been sufficiently kind. So let us be kind to this mysterious thing we call the mind. We can remind ourselves of the refuges in being awake, in practicing a willingness to accept things as they are. And recognizing that we do this in the company of very good friends. Friends on the path. There's a kind of richness that comes to a heart that has Dharma friends. And in a certain way, the entirety of the training of the heart-mind is so utterly simple. Be here now. Notice the contact of the body with the chair. Receive, embrace the aliveness in the place in the universe that we each identify as my hands, my fingers, my thumb, my face, And the body a little tiny shred of the earth that took birth a few breaths ago continues to breathe. This breathing which we take very much for granted, is our constant act of communion with all of life. There's a Zen story about a young monk who went to the Roshi complaining how boring it was to pay attention to the breath. And as such stories go, the Roshi grabbed him and held his head underwater for a long time. The breath became very interesting. And with the breath, with the breath as our anchor, our direction pointer, with the breath as our point of grounding in matter, it becomes possible to notice the movements of mind, to acknowledge awareness itself, to notice the 5 hindrances, to notice the enlightenment factors, to wake up from the trances of past and future, now. There may be sounds, outer sounds, in your environment. Here in my cozy little house, there are pointillist sounds. From memory, the perception arises of rain, a name for rain. But the sound isn't rain, the sound is this. There's another sound now, a droning would be a word. Seems to be moving. From memory, an airplane is created. But the experience is a sound. There's the body sitting, touching. Warm and cool, even cold. Cold feet. And there's breathing in and out. There are some occasional thoughts. They're like clouds passing through the sky. Sometimes the mind is clear and precise and sharp, balanced. Other times there are storms of different kinds. The storms of lust and desire and wanting. The storms of disliking and resistance and aversion. Storms of restlessness, agitation, and worry. Storms of sleepy dullness, sloth and torpor. Storms of doubt. The weather of the mind is not the mind. It is that which colors, which passes through. We use the home base with the breath and the intention of loving presence to illuminate the transient nature of these storms. we approach this phenomenon that sits here, this that we think of as I and me and mine, with an intention of loving, love and compassion, both. I aspire to love and accept myself, this self, this phenomenon, this psychophysical organism, this personality, exactly as I am in this moment. What an aspiration. I aspire to love and accept this moment as it is. And because life inevitably has pleasure and pain, gain and loss, fame, disrepute, sickness, health, because of the truth of impermanence, there's always suffering arising. And so I aspire to hold myself in sweet, loving compassion whenever and however I discover there to be pain or discomfort or disappointment. So we abandon self-hatred and self-rejection. And we embrace inclusion. It's this breath, it's this thought, it's this mood. Just as we can observe the phenomena of breathing in and out, so we can observe the more subtle, in a way, phenomena of mood. Mood colors all perception. In Western psychology, we have recognized mood disorders. When there's a tendency to stay stuck in a particular mood, depression, anxiety. Let us use mindfulness, concentration, and all the enlightenment factors, curiosity, tranquility, equanimity, to set ourselves free from identification with the mood of the moment. Moods are not personal. They are weather. This moment is exactly like this. And let us, as we approach the time of transition from sitting to a more active practice, remember to add into the in-breath some beautiful blessing, like "I love you" with your name at the end. Just try it. Even if it seems hokey, try it. Fill your lungs with the love of the Dharma. Let your heart conduct it to every cell in your body. On the out-breath, Think of someone you love easily. Wish them well today. Think of someone you know who's sick, perhaps. Maybe someone you know who's dying. On the in-breath, may I be happy and free from suffering. On the out-breath, may so-and-so be free from identification and suffering. And letting the breath now come and go. And in preparation of allowing the eyes to open or opening the eyes, bringing awareness into the face and the eyes, observing the intention or the plan to open the eyes. Not forgetting to bring with you an attitude of love and compassion and blessing and safety and then when you're ready, letting the eyes open and seeing with the eyes of love and compassion. Why not? Seeing. I have a very short Dharma reflection this morning. And I'm thinking of it thinking of it as a sort of vaccine. My daughter Tara got her first shot yesterday. She works at Kaiser in a vaccine program as a nurse, to perhaps inoculate ourselves against the madness that is present in the collective right now. I talked to several people yesterday who are freaked out about the tragic, awful events that happened in Washington, D.C. And my observation is they were freaked out as though they were there, as though they were being personally violated. And I had a different experience, which is this is the news. And this may be a very unpopular thought, but the events in Washington yesterday had zero effect on me. I don't mean response. I mean, where's Washington? It's another planet. And so it's possible to pay attention, to give it some time. But one of the issues is that such events trigger our childhood trauma. And if you had any instability in your family of origin, it's going to set it off. So to pay attention to that, comfort yourself around that. Makes a lot of sense. And I'm not saying deny, I'm not saying don't pay attention at all. But it's I don't believe, in my own instance, it doesn't help me to get all upset about it. Right? Because what's happening in this moment? I'm in my beautiful little safe house. You're wherever you are. It doesn't mean don't take action. But let's remember the big picture, which is, this is really crazy, but there's no one home. There's no one breaking into the Congress. That's a level of tuning. But there's another level of tuning where there's peace and ease, and then when possible, very skillful action, like acupuncture action. I guess that's all I want to say about that. Maybe a day to sit some more today. If you're really upset, stop, turn off the media and sit for an hour. Do yoga for an hour. I have a couple of announcements I want to suggest we look at. How appropriate. Starting January 12th, the PIMC Racial Justice Book Circle. Reading the book, where is it here? It's The Inner Work of Racial Justice by mindfulness practitioner and law professor Rhonda McGee. A class with Robert Beatty. 4 Foundations of Mindfulness. The Basics of Mindfulness. Isn't this a gorgeous picture? Yay, Molly, for creating this. Doug's Basics of Mindfulness class. And the Racial Justice Core Group. Monthly Metta for Black Lives. And Doyle has a monthly the practice group for NVC. Jim has Qigong. And there's a first Saturday retreat next Saturday, the 6th of February, with Doyle. And if you're feeling like exercising your generosity muscles and want to support PIMC, there's a link in the chat that you could use for that. So, anything you'd like to share? Please simply unmute yourself and we'll be here.
Hi, Robert. It's Kat.
Hello, Kat.
Hi. I am really, really grateful for that 2-minute Dharma talk. I really, really. Oh no, okay.
No, hang on. I'm gonna get me there too. There we go. Okay.
Gallery. It's just my hair in the morning. You're all seeing the lack of shower before practice.
Psst. I mean, live with it.
Great,
It's not that bad.
It's very like Indiana Jones. So, I just need those constant reminders that the news isn't directly happening to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I got so sucked into it. I started, and I'll say this is actually big progress. I started with like the Georgia election results came, and I had a moment of happiness, and then moved on, and I saw the storming of the Capitol. Yes, exactly. And I saw the storming of the Capitol, and was like, oh, that's troubling, and moved on. Except then I kept checking and kept reading, and oh, there's this platform called Twitter, which I purposely avoid really hardcore, but it's here, so I could check that today. and got sucked into it, and the stress levels just rise so much, so controlled by what I'm reading and consuming. Not actually what happened in the Capitol happened in the Capitol, and then keeps happening over and over and over for my biology each time I read about it. It happened for a few hours. For me, when I check it first thing in the morning, 2 days later, it's still happening. Um, and I was reminded earlier in this year that biologically we're not wired to know the news of the world. Like, until like 5 minutes ago, the news of our like neighboring tribes would have been a big deal to get that news. Like, oh, they had a fire in that neighboring, like 1 mile away. That's a big deal to know. And now it's, knowing something that's happening 3,000 miles away or 10,000 miles away. I'm just not, I don't have the capacity to process that. I wasn't created to really process that and integrate that. So I just just wanted to share and thank you.
Thank you, Kat.
Oh, and the other thing with that briefly is just noticing that I am taking that into my other relationships and am getting more anxious in my relationships with my kids and my partner and all those things of like spinning out those childhood traumas. So that was a really important reminder for me. It's not just happening in a bubble. It is triggering stuff that is personal. So thank you.
A long time ago, it's 45 years ago, maybe more. I was an early meditator, and I did a year. I was at York University in Toronto, and Marshall McLuhan was alive, the media guru. Some people don't even know who he was now, but he's the guy who said the medium is the message. And I did a Tuesday night, I think, for an academic year. I was with him at the University of Toronto, and my final project went like this. I started meditating on Friday night at 5:00. And then at 7:00 on Sunday evening, I turned on the TV. But between then, I did maybe 15 hours a day of sitting and walking, completely isolated from people, and the mind got pretty quiet. Certainly for that early in my practice, it got pretty quiet. And then I turned on the TV at exactly 7:00, and I realized almost immediately I was gone. I was in Miami with a group of police bursting into someone's home and doing a drug bust. And as I speak of this, it's there as clear as this picture. And I was lost. There was no mindfulness. I was in the program. And the title of my paper that I wrote for Marshall McLuhan was, "It's no wonder we call them programs." And then and at that point, AT&T was doing an advertising campaign. "It's the next best thing to being there." And my subtitle was, "The next best thing to being there is being there." For our physiology and for our psychology, it's if we're exposed to it, we're there. Very difficult to stay mindful of it. So thank you, Kat. I'll free you of the spotlight now. Ready? Here we go. My hair. Look at this. I get a haircut next Friday. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's next Friday.
Hi, Robert. It's Dave Mayer.
Dave, hello.
Debating sharing this, but I don't have another group to be able to share this kind of thing with, but it ties into what Kat and you were just talking about, if I can keep it from rambling. Many of you have kind of been along on my journey from the last several months. That's been quite astonishing, but in working through all of this, you talk about hold myself in sweet compassion. And for someone whose uh, early life did not involve a whole lot of instruction on compassion, it's a bit of a foreign concept to me. And one of your meditation guidances several weeks ago, you were focusing on impatience. And I was sitting one time impatient, and I sort of went the anatta route, and I said, wait, did I decide to be impatient? Did I choose this? And I looked around and tried to figure out, I'm impatient, but when did I decide to be impatient? There was impatience in the body. It happened. And that was sort of eye-opening to my practice, because it allowed me to, at any given point, I'm feeling really rotten. Did I choose to feel rotten? Where's Dave in this? Did I choose this? And it allowed me to remove myself from the blame, because I was hating myself and hating being in this yucky feeling, which caused me to turn my attention to the hatred. Did I choose to hate this? This isn't me. How can I hate myself for it? And that got me into the whole compassion thing. And what I'm finding myself saying, it's okay that there's hatred. I mean, I've gotten there. What it started with, it's not your fault. It's not, I just sit here. I'll just say over and over, it's not your fault that there's hatred out here. And I'm astonished at how much hatred I'm finding. I talked, I don't know, last week sometime about this acid cloud. Everywhere I look inside me, it's a hatred. It's this radioactive fallout from some nuclear trauma explosion decades ago. And have I chosen? Did I choose that? Did I choose this? No, it's there. And it's okay. It's not my fault that there is hatred. It's just here has turned into, it's okay that there's hatred. Not that I like it, not that I want it, but it's there. It's not my fault. And it's this increasing sense that this existence that is Dave is sort of strapped to this roller coaster that he didn't choose.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't choose, whatever this thing is. And that I didn't choose it. That's the way it is. And okay, here it is. And that the experience of the roller coaster gets much easier to bear when it's not my fault. And when all the hatred of the hatred is kind of blessed away, it gives me more room to look at, there's that piece of hatred over there. I started turning on my video camera because one of my big sensitivities is being seen. And so I challenge myself every morning, turn on the video camera, be seen, and then deal with the outfall from that, from being seen. It's, the voices come up, you shouldn't have said that. I'm going to have a hell of a time after this, because I'm, the cloud will come up, and it's okay, all right, it's all right, it's okay to blah, 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 blah. But as you and Kat were talking, the same thing is true. We live in this societal organism. We are strapped to this roller coaster of a political system in a world that we didn't necessarily choose. We're part of it. Mm-hmm. And it responds in its own way. We can affect it in our own way, but to hate it, I hate a whole lot of what's been going on in this country. I haven't had a whole lot of agency to change it. Mm. And yet I'm watching, there's a response. There's serious conversation about consequences from this. Pisses me off that it's taken this long, but, it's happening. There is a response. And,
thank you, David.
So it's kind of a parallel. I don't, Anyway, okay.
A lovely reflection on anatta and the usefulness of that. Thanks. I'm reminded, David, you talked about the shame attack that will come now or a little while later. Very early in my teaching, went on for a long time. Occasionally, I would become inspired, and I wouldn't be in control of everything that I said. There would just be speaking. And people liked it a lot. But in my case, it was a violation of my training as a child to don't take up too much space. Who are you to take up that much space? And I would routinely go home and drink. Not a lot, just a beer maybe, but there'd be shame from. It was like when Dad gets home, be quiet. Don't make noise. Don't try to tell anybody anything. And so it took quite a while to live that through and to realize, oh, it's just the programming. And then I don't have to blur myself out. I could tolerate the shame. It's just another experience. So, good work. I just noticed this post from Melissa. As Frank Ostaseski shared in a story from his cardiologist, it's good to have a heart. You can expect to have some trouble with it. You can substitute hair or anything else that feels troublesome. It's good to have hair. It is good. Without it, it gets cold. It's hard, difficult. Mine is not so thick anymore that it's super insulating. It's certainly better than none, but anybody else have something you'd like to share?
Isn't that what hats are for, Robert? When we don't have hair or we're cold, we just put on a hat.
Well, I do mostly. I
I
do.
love friends that shave their heads. They just wear a hat.
Jennifer knit me. She's become a knitter, and she knit me a hat. And I have 4 or 5 hats, but now I almost always wear the knit hat. Oh, I don't know. I've been meaning to share this. I got this for Christmas. Have any of you watched that? I forget the program even, but he sits here beside me as a sacred icon. The Mandalorians. Hats.
Hello, it's Denise.
Hello, Denise.
Hello. I just had recently I was at my house at home, and I don't know, I was just reflecting on I don't know what. And I was just so overwhelmed by this sense of gratitude that there's a path, that I don't have to figure it out, that like someone else already did. And it was like this, you talk about finding refuge and, breathing and finding refuge in the breath and leaning back like a hammock. And sometimes I imagine, I have certain images, and Tim, also your voice is one of the things that sometimes I kind of fall back or like just relax into. But it was just so powerful that I was like, there's refuge, there's a path. Like, it wasn't just the refuge of like a warm bed or the Tim's voice or I'm Dave or yippee. It was, I don't have to figure it out. And it was just, it just felt so good. And I'm just so grateful So thank you, everyone.
I'm remembering my teacher Munindra, one of his favorite lines was, and he'd get quite excited. He'd say, "The fire broke out in Bodh Gaya and spread around the world." Something happened to Siddhartha Gautama in Bodh Gaya, India, that has transformed the lives of hundreds of millions of people. And I'm not speaking of the religion of Buddhism. I'm speaking of the phenomenon of waking up.
Hi, this is Megan. Good morning.
Hello, Megan.
I mostly just wanted to introduce myself because I'm new to this group and I'm somewhat to Oregon. So been very grateful to land in this group recently and grateful for the space that you're holding, Robert. I've been, I think, especially sitting with the idea of assessing the moment, our tendency to assess the moment as inadequate, which you mentioned a few days ago and a bit today too. I've often thought about it as a kind of addiction to our own preferences. My partner and I have been attempting to find humor when our preferences are really going strong and just saying, wow, there's preferences flying all over the place right now.
That's fun.
But the way you phrased it as assessing it as inadequate, just I felt a sadness for that tendency, because it is such a gift to be alive, and so yeah, I'm working with that and also just wanted to connect with everyone, and I have a tendency to get really shy, so I wanted to make sure and actually say something. And I was thinking about I'm a psychologist, and one of the things I was reading about was about the kind of surest way to build social connection, and it said you're supposed to ask for a favor from someone else, and that's very likely to result in friendship. And I thought, what favor could I ask this community? And so I thought of something, and it involves everybody going to gallery view for just a second if you're not in it. And I was going to ask you just to put your hands up like this on the edges of your screen, so that it was like we were holding hands or high-fiving or touching for a moment, so that I could just say hello and meet you all. Thank you for humoring me. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Megan. I have an idea, a further idea. Let's all unmute and say, "Hi, Megan." 1, 2, 3. Hi, Megan. All right.
Still shy?
That was fun. Please remember to mute again, otherwise it'll get to be a mess quickly. It's fun. I feel all kind of a Twitter now. It's like, ooh, not Twitter that, but a Twitter.
Hello, Robert.
I hear a voice. It's Patrick.
Okay.
Patrick.
Hi there.
Patrick in his space cockpit.
Yeah, so it doesn't always work out. Yesterday morning, I sat down to meet with you guys, and I got a quick text before I got there, and one of my renters had a backed up sewer system,
Oh,
and I was just about ready to go, and enjoy the moment with you. And so I shut it all down and went out to the truck and got all my gear together and just spent the rest of the morning working on the sewer system.
how fun.
But while I was doing this, I was muttering to myself, I accept this moment. I accept this moment. I accept this moment. I accept this moment as it is. But it wasn't working.
I see.
I just want to say I'm working on it, but it doesn't always work.
Thank you. How remarkable to have a sense of humor about it one day later. Did you succeed with the sewer?
I think we arrived at it's a cast iron pipe. The building's 100 years old. I don't think a jetters can fix that. I think they have to fix the pipe. So
I see.
$15,000.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, being a landlord is a big deal. My prior relationship, my partner had properties, and oh man, I did a lot of middle of the night rescues.
Indoor plumbing's kind of like the heart.
You're right. Thank you, Jim. Tim, that's cool. Mm-hmm. There was one tenant who couldn't quite seem to get it, that she shouldn't pour bacon grease down the drain. Happened several times. So anybody else sitting with something you'd like to share?
Hi, good morning, it's Francine.
Hello, Francine.
Had a wonderful, wonderful visit with my daughter. She sat with us yesterday. Traveled at the end of the day, so it was a little lost to have her leave. I really enjoyed the company.
Mm-hmm.
We were great about quarantining for almost 2 weeks before she stayed with me. So she sends her regards and told me after the set, and she has her own practice, how delighted she was for me that I found a community. So you've got a lot of family love coming your way. I did have and I can't think of the word. What is the word when we give human characteristics to animals?
I forget.
Anthropomorphism.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you. So I watch the news usually maybe 2 minutes a day or sometimes 4 minutes. That's all I can handle. So I saw the scene in Washington, and all I could imagine was the opposite of anthropomorphism, because it looked to me just like dung beetles. If you've ever seen a video or nature program about how dung beetles feed, I looked at that and thought, that's exactly this big giant poop that had these beetles. No, it's true. I can't stop thinking of it.
I can see several people Googling dung beetles feeding in the next few minutes.
They crawl on top of each other. They fall down off the pile. They feed, and then they get all over each other. And it was like, that's what's happening here. It is feeding on the worst of. Sorry about your sewer. Was that Patrick? Yeah, it's like sewer rats to me. So I think that's how I use. And I didn't have to think of that. It just shot out that that's what that looked like to me. But that's a way I've been able to separate my possible angst or disappointment with this civilization with what is actually going on. So it's the anti-anthropomorphism.
Thanks, Francine. I forgot one of my announcements this morning is that on Sunday, I will not be teaching this Sunday. It will be Kendall who's taking over for the Sunday this particular week, which is giving me a day off. Kendall Summers, a wonderful, deep, wise, very extensively trained in the Dharma, beautiful human being. She spent a couple of decades with Kamala Masters and Steve Armstrong in Maui, on Maui. Did the Spirit Rock Dedicated Practitioner Program and the other one. So I invite you to encourage you to tune in because I think you'll find it really interesting. Well, any last comment, sharing? Well, I will look forward to meeting you here mysteriously at 7 o'clock on Monday morning. So let's sing our way out. May all beings be happy. May all beings be happy. May all beings be happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Happy trails, dear friends. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Robert.
Bye. Thanks.
Have a beautiful day.
Bye, everyone. Have a good weekend.
Ah,
Bye, all. Have a great weekend.
goodbye, Denise. Oh, a little heart appeared. Wonder how that happens. Jessica, are you the spoken of daughter? Beautiful picture.
Or what was that, Robert? You were asking me something?
Are you the spoken of daughter,
I
Francine?
am the spoken of daughter.
I see.
know. Yes.
Do you live far away?
Well, I don't know, far away from what?
From Francine. From your mother. Duh.
Not metaphysically, but yes, I live in New York.
Oh my. Mm. Are you back in New York now?
I am. I arrived here around 1 a.m. last night in
Huh.
New York time.
How was the travel? Are the airports busy or pretty empty or?
It's shockingly empty. There's lots of things are closed. There's very few people on the plane. There's hardly anybody in security.
Wow.
There's many gates. At one point, the flight that I took was a flight that happened, was an airline that had 3 direct flights a day, and they're now down to 2 direct flights a week.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot has changed. It's I mean, it was very quiet, and